Hello and welcome to the Aussie Football Passport, your one-stop pod for updates on your favourite Aussie men and women who are playing their club careers abroad. I'm your host, Alex, and this week we begin the episode with some rather sad news, and that is the passing of Rado Vidicic. He's the father of Dario Vidicic, the current Brighton and Hove Albion women's coach. Rado himself was a coach and did wonderful things in the game here in Australia, of course, winning multiple A-League titles with the Brisbane Roar. He did a lot of fantastic work in the footballing community here in Queensland, and we would like to pass on our condolences to the Vidicic family. In this week's episode, it's been another busy week as the transfer window deadline looms large and players who aren't getting minutes look to seal a move away and chase those precious minutes with their spots in the national team on the line. There's also a miracle recovery from one of our Socceroos midfielders, a career-ending injury, clean sheets, goals, and a whole lot more to bring you. Let's wait no further and get straight into the headlines. Let's begin with a transfer that has happened because there are plenty of Aussies who are returning home from abroad. As mentioned in last week's episode, Daniel Arzani and Marcus Yunus will be returning home to Melbourne City on loan deals until the end of the current A-League season. They join Ryan Teague, who was confirmed last week. Now they'll be joined by a fourth Aussie abroad returning home in the form of Harrison Delbridge. He is a former Melbourne City player and he has one Socceroos cap to his name. He departs South Korea after 5 years playing in the K-League. Now to the transfer rumour mill. Kai Trewin looks to be off in the other direction, leaving Melbourne City for New York City FC in the MLS, of course, part of the City footballing group. He did not play at the weekend for Melbourne City as coach Aurelio Vidmar noted he has a knee issue, but it is looking likely that he will not play for Melbourne City again before his move to his new club. We will bring you how Kai goes once the MLS season kicks off. Now, last week I brought you news of Kasuni Yengi's potential move to Cerezo Osaka, which has not gone through as yet. But this week it's his brother Teti Yengi who is on the move to Makita Zelvia, Mitchell Duke's old club. They are in the market for a big number 9 after Duke's departure and had inquired about Kasuni's services initially. However, they have landed on his brother, so like for like, I guess you could say, and it looks like it will be a loan with a buy option if he does well at his new club. But we will bring you confirmation of both of those moves once they are official from the clubs. Now to some other headlines, and the dates, locations and kickoff times for the Socceroos friendlies in the March international window have now been confirmed. Our lads will take on Cameroon in their first game, which will take place at Sydney's Accor Stadium on Friday, March 27th, with a local kickoff time of 8:10 p.m. The second game will be against Curacao on Tuesday, the 31st of March at Melbourne's Amy Park with a local kickoff time of 8:10 p.m. China will take on Curacao in Sydney and then Cameroon in Melbourne as part of the series, which will be the Socceroos' final games at home ahead of the FIFA World Cup. So get there if you can, support the lads. I'm sure they'll really appreciate that. Now to our Joeys, or the under-17 side, as they finished off their Pacific Island tour with 2 games against the under-19 Solomon Islands team in Honiara. Let's take a look at how both of those games went. The first game ended 5-2 in the Joeys' favour. Coach Carl Veer noted it was a tough match against older opposition that provided a great test for his new-look side. Luke Bechanovsky scored a hat-trick and was undoubtedly the highlight of the game. Christian Lombardo scored the Joeys' second goal in between Bechanovsky's hat-trick, whilst Max Court rounded out the victory with a goal from the penalty spot in the 82nd minute. The scoreline did not fully reflect the physical encounter that the Joeys faced in this game. However, it was good to see them take full advantage of the opportunities they created in this one. Now to the second game, they completed the tour by making it 3 wins from 3 with a 3-1 victory. Oof, that was a bit of a tongue twister. The goals in this match came from Malik Olukwale, Giorgio Hasrati and Luke Bechanovsky. It was another physical contest for our lads who endured a real test for the first 20 minutes of the match. It was punctuated with fouls and some desperate defending from the home side. Malik Olukwale's goal threatened to open the game up, However, it didn't occur until substitutes entered the game in the second half as the Solomon Islands levelled the game. Giorgio Hasrati departed with a goal before the man of the tour, Luke Bechanovsky, came on in his place and finished the game off just before added time with the third goal for our Joeys. Overall, it was a successful tour for them as they prepare for the Asian Cup, which will take place in Saudi Arabia in May this year. And we look forward to bringing that to you because there are some exciting talents in that side, particularly Luke Bechanovsky, a name to remember, that is for sure. Now to some injury news, and as always, it's pretty unfortunate, but this one is even more so. After announcing that this would be her last season, Chloe Logazo has been forced into an early retirement after sustaining an ACL, LCL, and tendon avulsion injury. She went into a contest with Brisbane's Leah Varley and unfortunately fell to the ground screaming and holding her right knee. This is the same knee she tore her ACL back in 2021. Chloe had won 59 caps for the Matildas and scored 8 goals across those appearances. What a fantastic career, Chloe, and I wish you all the best in the future. And just when you thought Dylan Leonard would be able to play for Schalke after the young defender had not been able to be registered to play until January 1st, and with the German Second Division's winter break, the club have announced that he has undergone surgery on his left ankle after picking up an injury in training. Can you believe it? How unlucky must you be? Poor Dylan Leonard. It is a cruel setback for him, and I wish him all the best in his recovery. Lucky he is in a good country for medical treatment, that's for sure. A lot of players get sent to Germany for specialist surgeries, with the quality of the doctors there being absolutely exceptional. And of course, he is quite young, so no doubt he has time on his side. Nonetheless, it is very unlucky for Dylan. All right, let's move on to the weekly wrap in just a second. All right, let's start with our ladies in England, where there was some League Cup action, particularly the semi-finals, which saw some involvement by our Australian girls. Caitlin Ford started for Arsenal, while Steph Catley was an unused substitute in their 1-0 loss to Manchester United, which knocks them out of the competition. Karakuni Cross has returned to the UK, but was unavailable for this game as she works her way back into the side and to match fitness. So it looks like the move from Arsenal's coach to bench Steph Catley backfired there. I think it's pretty fair to say. In the other semi-final, Chelsea defeated Manchester City by the same scoreline. Both Sam Kerr and Ellie Carpenter started. However, Kerr was substituted off in the 61st minute, whilst Carpenter played the whole game. Now to the weekend, where we returned to WSL action, and Brighton pulled off a 1-0 victory against Everton with 2 Aussies on opposing sides in this one. Claire Wheeler started and played 78 minutes in midfield for Everton, whilst Charlize Rule played 89 minutes in her new centre-back role for Brighton. Arsenal defeated Chelsea 2-0 and put a major dent in Chelsea's hopes of winning a 7th consecutive WSL title. Steph Catley and Caitlin Ford both started and played the full game for Arsenal, with Ellie Carpenter and Sam Kerr both starting for Chelsea. Ellie played the full game, while Sam was substituted off in the 56th minute of this game. Catley proved pivotal, winning the ball off Kerr and setting in motion a counter-attack which broke the deadlock and went a long way to helping decide the fate of this match, it's pretty fair to say. Alana Kennedy continued at centre-back for the London City Lionesses, playing the whole game in their 2-1 loss to Manchester City. Mary Fowler is getting closer to returning from her injury, however, she was not in the matchday squad for Manchester City in this one. Claire Hunt started and played the full game for Tottenham as they lost 2-0 at home to Liverpool. Charlotte Grant remained sidelined with her knee injury. And of course, that is Liverpool's first win of the WSL season, so not ideal for Claire and her Tottenham teammates there. West Ham beat Leicester City 2-1 in a battle of the Aussie midfielders. Katrina Gorry started and played the full game for West Ham, whilst Emily Van Egmond was a late substitute for Leicester, playing 12 minutes. In the WSL2, Newcastle was defeated by Charlton Athletic 2-1. Caitlin Torpey made her debut, starting at right back for Newcastle before being withdrawn in the second half. Now to France, where Lyon defeated Marseille 5-1 to progress to the quarterfinals of the Coupe de France. Tegan Micah was substituted on in the 19th minute after an injury to Christian Endler, the first choice keeper for Lyon. This could be an opportunity for Tegan to get some regular minutes now, and let's hope she takes it with both hands, pun intended. Now, let's head to Germany, where Eintracht Frankfurt were due to host TSG Hoffenheim, which would have pitted Haley Rasso against Jamila Rankin. However, the game was postponed due to adverse weather conditions. The game has been rescheduled for February 5th local time. Now, rounding out the action for our ladies in Italy, where Jessica Nash and Jacinta Galabadaracci both started for Sassuolo in their 2-0 loss to Napoli. Jessica played the whole game at the back, whilst Jacinta was substituted off in the 67th minute of that one. Alex Chidiac started and played the whole game for Como, who lost 3-2 to Inter Milan. Now, let's see how our men are getting on in England and Wales in the Championship. There was a 1-1 draw between Watford and Portsmouth in midweek action. Nesri Irankunda came off the bench in the 81st minute for Watford, and just when you thought he couldn't get rid of this man, yes, you better believe it, Jacob Farrell was substituted on at pretty much the same time as Nestri. So incredible stuff. So just to let you know, these two had a bit of history back in the A-League where there was a rivalry, and they had a few run-ins during their time at Central Coast and Adelaide United, respectively. So it's great to see these two renew their rivalry. Thomas Waddingham and Hayden Matthews remain sidelined with injury for Portsmouth. Sam Silvera played the first half of Middlesbrough's 2-1 win over Stoke City in midweek. Karen Burgess played a full game for Swansea in their 3-1 win over Blackburn in midweek as well. Lewis Miller was absent from the matchday squad for Blackburn due to his groin niggle. Callum Elder was a late substitute for Derby County, coming on in the 89th minute of their 2-1 win over Charlton Athletic. Daniel Benny started and played the full game for QPR in a very rare appearance for them, in fact, in their 0-0 draw against Oxford United in midweek. Keely Adamson was on the bench for QPR, but did not make it on the pitch. Now to the weekend's action, where Blackburn Rovers drew 1-1 with Watford. Lewis Miller not only returned from injury, he played 61 minutes and scored a goal from a corner. Lovely stuff for Lewis. Nesri Irankunda did not cross paths with his national teammate, as he only played 27 minutes from the bench. Middlesbrough had a comfortable 4-0 victory over Preston North End. Sam Silvera was introduced in the 60th minute, whilst Riley McGree made his return from a hamstring injury off the bench in the 74th minute. Great to see Riley back on the pitch, and let's hope he can stay there. Karen Burgess played another full game for Swansea City at the weekend in their 2-1 loss to high-flying Hull City. Callum Elder played a full game for Derby County in their 1-1 draw with West Bromwich Albion. Rounding out the action in the Championship, Daniel Benny played 17 minutes in QPR's dramatic added time loss to Wrexham on the weekend. Keely Adamson was again on the bench for QPR, but was not called upon. Now let's drop down a division to League One, where Alex Robertson played 86 minutes in midfield for Cardiff City in their 1-1 draw with Stockport County FC. Joe Gauci was back in goal for Port Vale, but unfortunately he had no influence on the result despite playing the full game. They lost 3-1 to Exeter City. Wigan Athletic had a 3-3 draw with Doncaster Rovers at the weekend. Rafael Borges Rodriguez played 75 minutes for Wigan, whilst his teammate Tyrese Francois was not in the matchday squad. Now let's head north to Scotland, where Ryan McGowan played a full game for Livingston as they drew 1-1 with St Mirren in midweek Scottish League action. Keanu Bacchus remains on the sideline for St Mirren with his hamstring injury. Aberdeen absolutely hammered Livingston 6-2 at the weekend. Nicholas Milanovic was substituted into the game in the 63rd minute for Aberdeen, whilst Ryan McGowan endured the full game for Livingston at the back and with the captain's armband. Martin Boyle played a full game, whilst Jack Iredale played the first half for Hibs in their surprise 4-1 loss to Falkirk. It's probably fair to say that Jack Iredale paid the price for an underwhelming performance in defence, and that is why he was substituted at halftime. Motherwell had a convincing 4-0 victory over Kilmarnock. Oscar Priestman started and played 82 minutes in midfield, with fellow Aussies Johnny Katrumbis being substituted on to get 31 minutes and Apostolos Stamatolopoulos also being substituted on to play 21 minutes. Now, another defender who had a rough weekend, it was in Italy, and it was our star man, Alessandro Tricati. He got the hook at halftime in Parma's 4-0 loss to Atalanta. It brought to an end his streak of 6 consecutive full games for his side after returning from injury. He was one of 3 half-time substitutes, it should be added, as they were down 2-0, and it's fair to say the Parma coach was looking for a way back into it. And a good way to do it usually is to sacrifice a defender and bring on an attacking player, and that's what happened with Shirkati in that one. Now let's head to Germany, where Jackson Irvine made his return for St. Pauli, the miracle I made mention of at the top of the show, coming off the bench in the 65th minute of their 0-0 draw with Hamburg in the local derby. Connor Metcalf remains sidelined with injury for St. Pauli. No timeline on that one. Now to Spain, where Matt Ryan started and played the full game in goal for Levante in a 3-2 win over Elche. It was another important win for Levante as they sit 3 points from safety in La Liga. Alan Mabil started and played 59 minutes for Castellon in their 0-0 draw with Real Zaragoza. Now to Croatia, where Fran Karasic made his debut for NK Osijek in a 4-0 loss to league leaders GNK Dinamo Zagreb. He started and played the full game at right back in that one. Now to the Netherlands, where Jordan Boss started and played 62 minutes for Feyenoord as they beat SK Sturm Graz 3-0 in midweek action in the Europa League. This keeps their playoff hopes alive in that competition. They go on to face Real Betis next week with a win away from home, their only hope of progressing to the next stage. So fingers crossed for Feyenoord in that one. Boss then backed it up by playing a role at both ends of the pitch in his side's 4-2 win over Heracles Alamello. Boss started and played the full game, conceding a penalty in the first half, but turning it around by scoring his side's second goal in the victory. Boss looks to be building towards that form that saw him win the Player of the Month award in September. Aron Hustic was a notable absentee from Heracles Alamello's lineup as he was suspended. Max Ballard started and played the full game for NAC Breda in a 2-2 draw with league leaders PSV Eindhoven. Now to Denmark, where Mohamed Touré scored a brace in Rander's 3-2 Atlantic Cup win over Tromsø IL. The Atlantic Cup is a pre-season tournament featuring sides from Scandinavia and the USA looking to build fitness in pre-season. Now, rounding out the men's action in Cyprus, where debutant Milos Degenek played for Apoel FC, his new side, in a 1-1 draw with Ammonia Arapiol. He started and played the full game in defence in that one. All right, that is it for the weekly wrap. Next up, Players of the Week, and we'll wrap up this week's episode. Players of the Week time, and our women's player of this week goes to a favourite player of mine, so absolutely no bias whatsoever here. It's Winona Heatley. She's been out of the Roma side in the last couple of games, but made her return in style, playing the full game and helping her side not only keep a clean sheet, but get the victory against Genoa. The final score was 1-0, and Winona Heatley helped her side keep their 7-point lead at the top of the table. So it's great to see Winona back in the starting side, and hopefully she can keep a hold of that starting spot from here on in. Now to our men's player of the week, it is Adrian Segacic. He began the week by playing 92 minutes and scoring his 6th goal of the season for Portsmouth in that 1-1 draw with Watford, as we made mention earlier in the show. He then backed it up at the weekend, playing a full game for Portsmouth as they drew 1-1 with Southampton in the South Coast Derby. Adrian was involved in the equaliser after his corner led to the goal. Fantastic stuff from Segacic, and another reason why he should be in that Socceroo squad in March. Popper, are you listening? All right, that is it for another week of the Aussie Football Passport. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Don't forget to check out the website for the pod and let me know if you'd like to hear how our Aussie coaches are doing abroad. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you in the next episode. Goodbye for now.